Evil. To be profoundly immoral and wicked. There are, on average, 1.3 million violent crimes in the U.S. annually, 800,000 assaults, 90,000 rapes, and 15 to 20,000 murders. Murderers are not monsters, they're men. And that's the most frightening thing about them. Alice Siebel. Megan, a licensed mental health professional, and her husband, Paul, a police officer, sit down to examine and discuss the nature, the impact, and most importantly, the origins of evil.
Welcome everyone, this is The Origins of Evil. I'm Paul.
I'm Megan.
And today we have a very, very special guest. We are joined with JT Armstead. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to meet you.
I really appreciate it. So, this is our first chance to get to talk to somebody who is a survivor of something like this. So we really appreciate you coming in and having a chat with us.
No problem.
Yeah.
So before we start, can you just tell us about La Vida and what those early days were like?
My mom was like a teacher, of course, so it was it was a nice balance of like home and school life. Of course, her being a teacher, she would sometimes bring her work home, and you would have to be a lot more educated than most other kids. But she was definitely a really good mom, a really great role model, especially just like with the way she kept things balanced with, like having 3 kids, not really having like a super great support system and kind of making things work the best way she knew how. And the love life thing, she had a lot going on in her love life, but for the most part, she kind of kept us away from all that until about the time Gary came around. But she was never like a neglectful mother or anything like that. She was always on top of us, always on top of making sure we're off of our school stuff. She kept us as a close-knit family. So I think that my mom was pretty great. And there was a lot of comments going around on like the YouTube videos and stuff like that with people like kind of like bashing her, for the situation. And I just, personally don't believe that there's any way that we can know anything about that until it happens. But from my perspective, from my little brother's perspective, there was nobody better that could have been our parent. There's nobody else that we would have been more grateful to have with our mom.
She seems like the mom that like always wants to like take pictures of her children. I just kind of got that sense from the videos that I saw of you guys on like ID Discovery. Like she's definitely a photo
she
mom.
used to dress me and Jared in the same clothes, and it was like so annoying because like we're not twins or anything like that, so it was just awkward.
She just the word sassy comes to mind. She just seemed very like fun and like spunky from what we could see.
And I would say Jasmine seemed that way too.
Yeah, my sister picked a lot of that up from her. Like they were both the type to talk with their neck and move their hands. Yeah, they both were definitely sassy.
Yeah.
We'd love to know more about Jasmine also.
What exactly you want to know?
Well, she seemed like she ran the show, honestly. And like I'm like, this little girl definitely was like the leader of the pack.
Yeah, so Jasmine was usually like, Jasmine was mostly the mastermind when it came to like trying to like sneak and watch like TV shows or like play with her dogs when we're in trouble and stuff like that. I was more the mastermind when it came to like stealing snacks out the pantry in the middle of the night when we were like hungry and stuff like that. But Jasmine definitely, her and Jared actually were a lot closer than me was, and that's just because, like me and her had such a huge gap in age. But her and Jared were definitely like cops and robbers. Like they were the tag team duo when it came to getting in trouble for sure.
Yeah. What was the age gap between you two?
So Jasmine is 6, Jared at the time.
Yeah.
So Jasmine was 6, Jared was 9, and I had just turned 12 when all this happened. And me and my mom had the same birthday, so she had just turned 32. And this happened like a month after our birthdays and a month before Jasmine's.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was it was a weird time for sure.
Oh, I can imagine.
Gosh. I know you said like your mom didn't really like throw you kids into her dating life, but do you know how she met Gary?
I do not. One day we came home and he was just there. I don't know how long they were dating before he decided to, let him move in or anything like that. I just know, like we came home one day and he was there and he didn't leave anytime soon. So he kind of just got used to him. Gary was a really isolated person. He didn't really conversate with us much. He was mostly just in the room playing his game. He didn't work much or anything like that. So he's kind of like the babysitter when my mom has stuff to do. But it was just kind of like he just appeared out of nowhere. We didn't really know anything about him or like where he came from, how they did anything like that. I assumed because of age, I already knew like what my mom would do on the weekend. So I assumed she met him at the club. Mm-hmm. I don't want to don't quote me on that.
Right. No, yeah.
I'm pretty sure she met him at like a nightclub that she used to go to, and it kind of just started from there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Now, was he always aggressive and abusive towards you guys, like as soon as you met him, or was this something that kind of progressed
gradually built up
over time?
It definitely progressed over time. Originally when he lived with us, we were living in apartments in Lancaster called the Rosemont Apartments in Lancaster, Texas. And so there we got our first whoopings from him, et cetera. Just kind of seeing how he was when it came to punishments and things like that. And not too long after, we moved back to Oak Cliff and our house that my mom got, and it just got like that. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and my brother and my sister are really heavy sleepers, and I'm really thankful for that. I would wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and just hear a bunch of banging and bashing. I would stay up and I would listen, and of course, they're hollering, going back and forth. You can hear Gary put her into light switches and into the bed, and I can, hear her wailing on him. Now, when it came to us, I feel like it was more so him. None of us really respected Gary, not in the sense of as him not respecting him as an adult, but none of us respected him as an adult figure simply because he never spoke to us. It wasn't we didn't have any connection with him or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So we barely talked to him. It was more so oh, our mom's home, hey mom, yada yada yada. And I guess Gary get fed up. He'd been there with us all day and we haven't really said anything to him. And he'll just find any little thing. And my mom was I feel like mom was terrified of him at this point. And it got to the point to where she couldn't separate him and him hitting her and him hitting us, because I feel like if she would have told him no in certain situations, oh, those are my kids. I know everybody thinks that she could have just been oh, those are my kids. Don't put your hands on them. But if she says that to him, then he's turning on her. So yeah. It was she was trying her best. I personally feel like she was trying her best, and Gary just kept getting worse and worse. I don't know if it was due to the fact that, he wasn't working, he was always in the house, or if he's always been like this. Because it came out in the court case that he tried to kill his first wife. If I'm not mistaken, tried to strangle her with a shoestring, and there are images and everything there. So, I mean, and when mom out about that, that's when she decided that she wanted to leave, and then not too long after, the whole situation went down.
Yeah, and that's a very common statistic with domestic violence is, when women try to leave their abusive partners, that is when they're most likely, to be like very harmed or killed. And
Right.
it sounds like your mom was literally doing everything in her power to protect all of you. And it's not that easy to just get up and walk. Part of an abusive dynamic requires trust, right? Like, if he was abusive from the get-go, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking, because your mom does not sound like the type of woman that would be like, oh yeah, no, this is totally fine. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There's that trust and that gaslighting that has to occur. And I'm so sorry. I think you said that like people on YouTube have been like terrible in the comments.
Yeah, like even with Ray, like, because me and Ray, Jasmine have had like multiple. I had to talk to him on multiple occasions because I see him like replying to the comments because people are blaming him for Jasmine. That then like how he noted that Jasmine didn't want to go home, but like what they're not realizing is Jasmine is a daddy's girl. Like Jasmine, if she was with her dad, she didn't want to come home. And like as a parent now, even when my daughter is like, kind of like iffy about going home, I'm a lot more cautious now. But had I been in Ray's shoes, I don't think I would have thought that it would something this severe as to why she didn't.
Yeah.
And, he sat up and like cried to me and like literally bawled his eyes out because the world views him as a horrible father. That's not the case at all. Like Ray would do anything for Jasmine, and he is still holding on to that weight today. And it really like sucks to see. And it kind of hurts me a lot also because I feel like I'm the only person that's been able to kind of like deal with this in the manner that I have. And everybody else is kind of holding on to it. And it's not that I don't care about the situation, and it's not that I don't, it was a big part of my life, and it was a very traumatic part of my life. But it stopped me from moving forward because I was so like caught in the past. And I had to just, one day I just decided I'm not going to mourn over this anymore. Like, it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean that I'm forgetting about them. But I can move forward if I keep focusing on things that have already happened. So I tend not to really pay attention to the YouTube comments. I tell Jared not to pay attention to the YouTube comments. I definitely tell Ray not to pay attention to it. And I've kept my granny away from all of it because my grandma is still very broken up about it. But I've definitely like did my best to try to keep everybody sane when it comes to outside interviews talking about our situation. When, a lot of these people that are commenting, if they were put in that situation, they were broke. And, I think all of us have remained pretty strong during this 12-year period. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to, reach out to you, because I did see some of the comments, and, I think as humans, we always want someone or something to blame. How could this have happened? And of course, in this situation, the only person to blame is Gary Green. Not anyone's dad or neighbor or your mom or whoever. He is solely responsible for this.
Yes.
So I also wanted to ask you, do you feel like there was anyone in your lives that perhaps could have stepped up more for you in this situation that didn't?
I do. However, they wouldn't have been able to because of my mom. My mom was a very private person when it came to it. It was like the elephant in the room that you didn't want to touch. I feel like had she been more vocal about what the situation was, there are a lot of men in our family and a lot of people in our family that would have stepped up, to play and helped her in that situation. But she was so, she was an independent person. She was a very to herself person, and she didn't really like a lot of people in her business. So I think ultimately that's what kept her from getting the help that she needed.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks to say, but I mean, I'm just being, completely honest. Because he's not my biological dad, but the man who raised me, was at our house within seconds, after I called in. And, we had family all the way in Temple that got to the hospital in an hour, and that's a 1-hour drive. Just because, of the severity of the situation. So I know that there are people that could have helped us. However, I feel like she wanted to keep everybody out of it, because the more people you bring into it, the harder it is to get out of it.
Right.
So it was, I think she would have told more people if it meant keeping some peace. I think her ultimately being private is what led to it getting as far as it did.
Yeah. So it sounds like it wasn't necessarily their failure to act, but really them just respecting your mom's boundaries that she set in place. I mean, your mom definitely comes off as someone who didn't need a man to take care of her. I think, what was she, 27 with 3 kids at one point?
Yeah,
she was a tough woman, it sounds like. So, this was probably so mind-boggling for her. I'd imagine she's probably what is going on? How did I get here? I got to get myself out of it, and I can't, let other people in.
Yeah, and
then I think another thing people don't take into account is she had kids, so right. If one woman, it's super. I mean, it might not be super easy to leave, but you don't have that much baggage, to worry about taking with you. This is a 32-year-old woman with 3 kids, a job, things that she just can't leave behind. And she tried to get out the situation the best way she knew how, with being able to keep everything in order, especially us.
Yeah. No, you bring up a very good point, just the logistics of trying to leave in the middle of the night when you have 3 kids. It's just not a feasible thing for most of us to do,
Right.
So with you being, the oldest of your siblings, and, you have a younger sister there's a decent age gap there. You had mentioned before that there were times where they would be sleeping and you'd hear what was going on. You would hear that there were problems. How did that make you feel as an older brother? Did you feel like there was this this responsibility on you to insulate them from that, or what was going through your head?
So mostly it felt more so like a responsibility to protect my mom, and in turn I'd be able to keep my brother and my sister out of it, because I won't sit here and say that there weren't times where I would barge into the room and try to de-escalate the situation and get removed from the room. But I knew that the best way to protect them was to get Gary out of the house, which not too long before this happened, I had got him kicked out just by sitting my mom down and basically saying hey, we don't like him. There's something off about this. But it was hard because I didn't want them to know too much of what was going on. And my brother never overheard it during the night. My sister never overheard it during the night. It was always me. So I would kind of pull my mom to the side about it. I never really tried to talk about it in front of them or anything like that. And then with me being so young and Gary being so big, and there wasn't a plausible way for me to kick his butt or anything like that. So it was kind of just, I had to just do what my mom told me, and they had a grown folks business.
Yeah, I feel like a factor that a lot of people don't acknowledge is Gary was a big dude. He was 6'3" and 365 pounds. So there wasn't, if he wanted to do something, there wasn't a lot anyone could do to stop him.
You're right.
So, leading up to that night. I remember watching an interview with you, and you said that he sat your brother and you down and said something to the effect of, "Now give me a reason why I shouldn't kill you all."
Yes,
now,
that was literally the first thing he said to us.
Now, these are the words that you hear right before this man stabs your brother in the stomach. What are you thinking in that moment as a 12-year-old boy? Like, what is going through your head?
I was in shock. I'll be honest with you. Like, from when we got to the house to when he showed us the bodies, I was under the impression that everything was a prank, or at least that's what I was trying to tell myself. Mm-hmm. And then when I seen him stab Jared, I was like, oh, like, you know, this is real. Like, this is actually happening. And I didn't know what to do. The most that I could get out of me was the best push that I had in me to get Gary off of him. But other than that, like, I was stuck there. I couldn't say anything. Like, Jared was doing most of the talking because it was taking me so long to process what was going on at that time. And then when I saw him stab Jared, I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like, we're gonna die here. Like, this is it. Like, because we watch movies, we're not, like, completely unaware of the fact that murders, are real. And when I seen the knife come out and I seen Jared's blood started kind of like filling up the shirt, I was just stuck there. And, Gary direct questions at me and I could get any words out. It was just, silence for me. And Jared really, did his absolute best to, like, talk us out that situation. And I kind of just stood there, unable to do anything. So I felt hopeless of the situation for sure.
Now, the days leading up to this, did you have any inkling that something was wrong, or did this just come out of nowhere for you guys?
So the only thing that made me feel like something was up is, so like I said, I had got Gary kicked out the house not too long before this happened. Mm-hmm. We came home from school one day and my mom was being kind of weird and she didn't want us to go back towards our room or anything like that. And I'm 99.8% sure that it's because Gary was in the house. And the week of this happening, my brother got suspended from school. So Gary lied and told my mom that he needed to, like, meet his parole officer or something like that. So he told his parole officer that he stayed with us. And, it's just a bunch of people that, like, put together to be in the house. And I came home from school and he was there. He was, watching Jared. He just, the energy was kind of like suffocating. Like, when you were a kid, you would, like, go to in-school suspension or something like that, and it would feel like the air would kind of, like, get really thin. Mm. That kind of felt like, walking in the house, and I don't know, like, something just told me to kind of, like, tell my mom to stay with us and, like, not to go back to the house, but it never came out. And I really wish that I would have said something, but I was staying in a child's place like that always been told, and it wasn't something that was really my business to, like, speak on as far as a mom concerned. So there were signs, but there wasn't anything that anybody would believe from a 12-year-old if I'm, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Wow. And I guess, obviously we've seen stuff about, what happens at night and whatnot. Right. We hear about the trial and his sentencing. Who is taking care of you and Jarrett after all of this? What happens, when the cameras stop rolling because the trial ends and, justice is served?
So me and Jerry ended up getting separated. He went to go live with my granny, Margarita. I had, not too long before this happened, my mom actually found biological dad. and I ended up moving with him. So we were both in Duncanville, Texas, but didn't really get to see each other as often as, like we did when we were living together. So it kind of created like a drift between us as well. So we were completely separated. I didn't have a phone, so I couldn't really talk to him. He didn't have a phone, so he couldn't really talk to me. So we were kind of just both went on living our lives after the situation. But the fact that we weren't together, I think, like strained on us, especially after everything we had been through together. Him not being in the same household as me, and me not being there to comfort him, and it's with him being so far away was kind of like a big thing.
Yeah, it sounds like obviously a huge change in the family dynamic, and just the fact that you two were separated from being able to really process this, which I imagine right. Is still something that you think about till this day. Maybe not processing as much, but I'm sure there are still some things that you think about from time to time.
Most definitely is, man.
And did you stay with them during the trial? Did he stay with, did you say your mom's biological dad or his, I'm sorry, he stayed with your grandmother?
Yeah, he stayed with my grandmother, my mom's mom. And I stayed with my biological dad. Okay. And actually, CPS took us like the day we were released from the hospital. So this was before the trial. The trial happened a year after we got out the hospital. Yeah, it was like a year after we got out of the hospital, because it was my second semester, 7th grade, is when we actually went to court. So we had been separated for a year by the time we went to court.
And how would you say this impacted your mental health? The loaded question, yeah.
That's a loaded question. So I've attempted suicide 4 times. It's been 2 years since my last suicide attempt. It's definitely a strain on my relationship with my kids. Like I'm not gonna act on Father of the Year. I'm terrified of getting close to my kids, and then like someone takes them away from me or takes me away from them, and then they're stuck with that, dealing with the same like pain and et cetera that I've had to overcome, or still trying to overcome. It's definitely screwed up my relationships because I have major trust issues. It's like, I was around this man for 3 years, and I thought I knew the guy. Then he turns around and does something completely out of character, and I just don't want to. I don't really like people, because you never know what people are capable of, and you never know what people's true intentions are, and what their true motives are. And it's made it very difficult for me to create bond and just like, keep people in my life, because there are these times where I just want to be to myself, and there are these times where I go into like a deep depression. Like with the parenting thing, like I haven't been able to, ask my mom, what should I do about this? Oh, my daughter's 6, she's about to graduate kindergarten, and like she's starting to like boys and all of this, and I have nobody to like turn to for that. Or so I'll go in these moments where it just kind of like I shut out the world, and I put it's definitely put like a strain on me, because I know I could be farther in life if I didn't let this have so much of a hold over me. I tried therapy. I've ghosted like 4 therapists already, so I don't think there's any going back to that. I'm pretty sure there's like a limit on how much you can like ghost a therapist. But
it's very common.
Yeah, I was gonna say how much do you deal with that?
Constantly. It's very common. we're used to it. So, what you're saying like doesn't surprise me, but it also is very important that, I mean, one big thing with the therapeutic process is you have to trust your therapist. And if that is difficult for you, or, you're working with someone, you feel like, I don't think this person quite gets me, then yeah, you're not going to want to open up to them.
It was more so like the type of therapy that we were doing. It was like EMDR or something like that, and it was like a huge strain on me mentally. Like I don't know like why it's so powerful, but she would put those thingies on my hand. They get to vibrating, and I would be stuck right back in that time period. Like where all of this went down, and it was terrifying to go back to that place. And I think that's more so the reason why I goes there is because, like, I felt like I had moved forward. And although I do have, like, traits that stem from my trauma, I felt like more traumatizing stuff was the stuff that I've had to deal with in this current day and age. And being put back in that place, like, consistently, like every session was kind of like wearing me down mentally. And I would like start crying out of nowhere and et cetera. So it was kind of like starting the process over and over again. And I think it was too much for me.
Yeah. I mean, to do EMDR off the bat, that's a treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's very effective, but you also have to be ready to go there. Right. If you're not ready to just dive into the trauma right away, then yes, what you're saying is correct. It could, re-traumatize or have negative effects where you're like, oh my, like, is this what therapy is? Like, I don't want any of it. So, that's totally understandable. Perhaps maybe like talking with someone that is just trauma informed but can do talk therapy with you first might be something that you want to look into, just so it isn't that intensive of treatment. Like you're saying, there are some things that you want to work on that maybe aren't you're not directly relating to this, although it's kind of the root, but you can get there in time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean, how are you feeling today?
It's getting better. I kind of immerse myself in work at this point in my life, so I work 12 hours, like 6 days a week. Maybe not spend the time on that work. So I usually don't have time to think about, like any of the outside stuff. And so today I'm okay. It's a day at a time type of thing. I'm in a pretty supportive relationship now, so that helps out, especially when I get in those iffy mood. Other than that, just this being blind thing really kind of sucks. I did not realize how much I relied on my vision, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a hell of a text to get from you. I was like, he just said he's blind? Wait, what? What's going on? I was like, did something happen at work? Are you okay?
Yeah, I was, and I to text you tonight. I was in the hospital because we had actually talked like a couple of hours before that. I was like, I don't want him to think like I'm like making this up. But,
no.
It kind of came out of nowhere.
No, dude, I hear you. I've been hospitalized because of my job twice in the last 6 months, so I 100% believed you. I was just like, damn, I hope he's okay. That sounds awful. But,
yeah.
How do you want your mom and Jasmine to be remembered?
Ooh, that's a good one. I want them, especially, so I'll speak on my mom first. I want my mom to be like remembered as an educator and, as just this person who, she didn't meet strangers like her or Jasmine, met strangers. If they met you, they embraced you as if you were one of their own, and they were very loving and caring, and just, all around joyful. And I don't want people to forget that. Like, I know it's easy to remember, negative things and how things turned out, but, we do have to remember, like, all the smiles that they gave us and, all of the good time that we had with them before the storm. And I don't want people to ever forget that they were always happy. Like, it was always a smile on their face. And that's like a big thing that I don't want people to let go of.
Yeah. So, while there's no execution date set, it's all but certain that Gary Green is going to die by means of lethal injection. And I can't imagine how conflicted your feelings might be on that, but I wanted to hear your thoughts. Is this something you've made peace with? Is this something that you wish to even attend, or do you just not even think about it? Do you just, like, I don't give it any mental energy?
I'll be honest, and I'll be completely honest with you, and this might sound kind of bad.
No, dude, I get, dude, yeah.
I personally think lethal injection is way too sincere a way for him to die. I personally feel like they should send him to Oklahoma, flip the switch in that chair, and leave it on until there's nothing left. But at least, I guess, knowing that, he is going to die eventually, I guess is good enough at this point. Me and my family have been kind of upset at, the longevity that he's got to have because, my mom and my sister didn't get to, wait 12 years before they died. And it's like, he gets to sit on death row. He gets to, live this, prison lifestyle, get, to get food, still, I don't know if, death row inmates get to talk to people on the outside, but, I feel like he still has a lot more freedom than he should have. And I feel as if he should have died a long time ago. Like, I feel as soon as the judge put down the hammer, they should have went ahead and took care of that. And I do ask all the time, would go, and yes, I would. And if they told me that I could stick the needle in him, I would definitely do it myself. Because I want to see the life come from his eyes. Like, I feel like that's the only way that I'm going to get peace is to watch him die and to watch that last breath come out of him. And I know that's sickening, but
no, not at all.
I still have a lot of like hatred and anger built up towards him. And so I definitely would attend. I definitely kill myself if there was ever that possibility.
So I guess it goes without saying, I mean, you basically answered this, but do you believe Gary deserves to die?
Most definitely. I believe that there would be no greater punishment for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, he took 2 lives and...
Yeah. And it gets so much, it goes beyond that. People like to think like the crime is he killed these people, that's where it ends, that's where it stops. But they don't think about the ripples that go out. They don't think about your daughter being a victim of this crime because of the effects that it's had on you, or her not being able to know her grandmother.
Yeah.
They don't think about the responding officers and the trauma that they experienced just being there, or having to go through the trial, just all these things. People have such a small scope of what they think happens, and it doesn't do it justice.
Right.
And
even the detectives were saying like they've seen plenty of cases, and a lot of them were like have retired since like responding to this case, and a lot of people just like left the field because they couldn't shake it out their head. And I completely understand, but I think, like you said, I think people don't take into account the fact that it affected more than just the family. I've never seen a cop cry until that night. I've never, like my neighbor that, helped us get out of the house and, who we ran to when we left the house, she still feels like, it's her fault because she could have said something and et cetera. So yeah, nobody has really like gathered all those points. And I feel like that's all the more reason why he should have been dead sooner, is because nobody's going to be able to really get any rest until he's gone. Like, I used to have nightmares that he would break out of jail and come back and finish the job. So he definitely needs to be gone pretty soon.
And I know that this is purely speculation, but why is it that you think he decided to let your brother and you live? What changed that he let you guys go?
I, to this day, have not been able to answer that for anybody. I'll be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
A lot of people say God. I'll be completely honest. I'm not a Christian guy. Gary picked us up from the church. I'm not gonna say God. I'm not gonna say, like he just decided, maybe I've killed enough today. It's probably these too long. I think more so, if anything, if I could say that anybody was close to Gary, I would say that Jared did his best to kind of build a relationship with Gary. And Gary was somewhat of a father figure to him. So I think hearing Jared kind of basically like beg for our lives, maybe kind of force his hand a little bit. And then also the fact there were two of us, because, like with Jasmine, and I'm just going based, I didn't see this part, but I'm going based on what they said in trial. He had already tied up Jasmine and presented her to my mom. So, Jasmine's 6, she's almost like 75 pounds, etc. There was nothing that she could do. So all he had to do was make sure he take care of my mom and get her out of the way and get Jasmine out of the way.
Yeah, you'd already demonstrated
when it came to me and Jared,
you already demonstrated that you had a willingness to fight back at this point too.
Right. So when you have two kids that are a lot more mature, even though like we're not strong individually, you don't know what's possible if both of us get the opportunity to like get you at once. So I think that played a big part in it, and he's even said it in an interview that we did with Thomas on You Asked Is He the Monster. He stated that if he had a gun, it would have been a lot easier, because if you have a knife, you can only do one at a time. So I think that played a big role in it as well. And I think his goal afterwards was not to kill us much physically, but to kill us emotionally and spiritually, by showing us the bodies and just kind of leave stick with them. Because he opened the door, we saw them there, and we broke down, and he just walked out. There was no like sorry or anything like that. He just made me hand him some pills, made Jerry hand him some clothes, and left. And I think that he felt like that would get to us more than just killing us.
Yeah. It's like trying to teach you some type of sick lesson, almost.
Yeah.
And his parting words too, right? Like, how I say never goodbye. Like this, like just something about that to me was like, I think that he really might have felt that he was sparing you two in some sick way. Like, I have now created these strong men, like, which is just so disturbing. And as you know, true crime, it's a very popular topic, although it obviously can be very dark in its nature. Do you have any suggestions on how podcasters or people or companies that put out these shows, how they can maintain a level of respect and reverence for the victims and their families?
I would say just like what you guys did, like reach out, even if they don't respond, like at least make sure that you're holding that level of respect for them and their story, that you reach out enough to let them know, like, hey, we're going to be talking. about this. I just want to make sure that you're not, like it's not going to be an issue for you. Because literally Paul was the first person that's reached out to me. I feel like they weren't like overstepping their bounds. And you also have to remember, like that us victims don't get paid for this. We literally do this kind of just like to share our testimony and like our message and etc. So, you have to bear with us. We have to relive those traumatic moments and relive those times, especially when we're really not getting anything out of it. And I know a lot of people told me like I should try to not necessarily like make money off of my story, kind of like what was the word that lady used?
Monetize or
yeah, like like people told me, like start a GoFundMe, do things like that. And I just feel like that would really like tarnish my mom's name. So I also have to be watched out for those people that aren't necessarily like hurt by their loss, but more so use it as a crutch and way to like fill the pockets. So you also have to be like mindful of those people because not everybody is as remorseful as say lose someone. So definitely just like keep it respectful and know who you're dealing with. Because some people that are gonna flip on you because something just so drastic to them, and then you'll come across people like me who have kind of made their peace with it and open to talk about it. And you might come across someone like my brother who, he'll talk about it, but you want to compensate him in some ways because like it's not something that he really wants to talk about, but he'll do it. So yeah, but ultimately, I think podcasters, especially like you guys, are doing a great job with keeping that respect and that line of communication open, and making sure that it's okay with survivors before you speak on a situation that you weren't involved in. So I really do appreciate you guys for that. So yeah.
Thank you, but that means the world to us. Honestly,
Yeah.
It does.
Because honestly, you've been the first person that we reached out to, and I did have to do some work to find you. In the most non-creepy way.
Changed my name
Yeah.
on Facebook so nobody could find, because I was getting like 30 messages a day from people like seeing the documentaries, and
Oh God.
those are the type of people that bother me the most. Like, hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. Hey, I'm so like, as I understand, it's 12 years ago. It's not new to me. It's new to you.
Yeah.
So, just like getting those messages over and over. And there was a lot of like weirdos talking about, I've been in love with you since I seen you on the documentary. Like, it was just.
Oh my
The
God.
groupies.
And it's overwhelming. So I definitely changed I was like, I don't know what you guys did to find me, but you guys definitely had to do some work in order to get there. And I'm grateful.
I was gonna say you have a bored housewife and a police officer. You never had a chance of hiding from us. We were gonna find you.
We got you.
And just to close things out, I just want to know how did fatherhood change your perspective on all of this?
Oof. Fatherhood definitely opened my eyes a little bit. So I started looking at things more from Gary's side, and I do have the letters. I do keep those in my email. I do read those every now and then, and it definitely helped me a bit with understanding his feelings and understanding why he felt betrayed, why he felt the need to go this far. It doesn't help me understand why he went with it, and it doesn't help me understand the manner in which he expressed his feelings. But it did help me understand, like, he felt betrayed. He felt like, we hated him, and he wasn't wrong, but it just, he went about things in the wrong manner. And it's definitely shown me, like, not to bring too many people around my kids. Like, I don't bring many people around my kids. If they like go somewhere with their friends or something like that, I always need to know like who the other parent is first. And I'm just very cautious with them, and because I would hate to have to hurt someone, my children. And I'm going to smile at my mugshot if something that was to ever happen to my kid. But it's definitely made me way more protective of them. I've definitely tried to tone that down a little bit. And it's made me love them a lot harder because, you know, my sister was 6. And you never want to be the parent that outlives your child. So my daughter's 6 this year, and I've definitely been like terrified, you know, like every day. Like when she makes it to 7, I'll probably relax, take a breather for a little bit. But she looks just like Jasmine. She, you know, reminds me to the utmost of Jasmine. So it's definitely been hard and stressful this year, but going smooth so far. So with my son, you know, he lives in Minnesota, so there's not really much that I can do there. But I do keep watching from a distance, and you know, I do make sure I communicate with his mom, make sure that they're okay, and that, you know, nobody's harming them in any way, form, or fashion. It's definitely made me a better father in a way, and definitely a person overall, because make sure I do my best to like love everyone and make sure, you know, I do my best to treat everyone fairly, because you never know what someone's going through. So yeah, I mean, I hope I answered that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you did. You did.
I think it's just, you know, it's important to point out, you are coming from a place where you want to be a good father to your children.
Yes.
With Gary, just based off of what I've read about him and the mental health background that was available about him, it doesn't sound like it was, you know, I want to be a dad to these kids and I want them to respect me in that way. It just sounds like it was all about control and perhaps him feeling like he passed on something to you guys, like, right. You know, where there was no love there. And so, you know, I think you're doing, it sounds like you're doing a great job of just trying to be the best dad that you can for your kids.
Thank you.
After going through something like this, I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly impressed with the level of empathy you're able to maintain after going through something like that. I feel like a lot of people would just shut down, but you really seem like you're pushing through it, you know? And like you said, this had to be a difficult year, seeing your daughter turn 6. I can't imagine how triggering that must be, you know, to have that in your head. But yeah, you're on the other side of it almost, you know?
And then what's crazy is Gary has a daughter. I don't know how old she is now, but I know he has a daughter. I haven't been able to like look at her. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but I know he has one out there.
Yeah,
that was about the same age as Jasmine. So she was about 20, maybe 21 right now. So, I mean, if you guys ever want to continue talking on this story, you guys find, I think that might be a good way to get, you know, like some perspective from the other side.
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, it's one thing for us being, you know, like the victims, but I think it would be like a completely different thing for her. Like, oh my God, you know, like my dad's murderer. So that's something that I've always, you know, like really thought about, you know, like how's she doing, and et cetera. There was a time where I hated her. I'm not gonna lie to you. There was a time where I felt like I wanted my revenge and I wanted to, you know, like find her and et cetera like that. But that was, I think it only bothered me because she was still here, and, you know, the child that didn't belong to him is gone. So, but yeah, if you guys ever do her know. I hope she's doing well. And
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That would be an interesting take.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. Like people, I don't think consider that.
Well, we're running out of time on Zoom. Apparently, there's a time limit. Who'd have thunk that?
Okay.
But JT, I cannot thank you enough for getting back to us and for being willing to sit down and share your time, your story with us. Really, it's been immensely it's been amazing.
Yeah.
And
no problem. Thank you guys for reaching out. And if you ever want to talk about it more, just let me know.
Yeah, and listen, if there's anything we can ever do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. You have my number at this point, so we're way past that. So
yeah, if you need it, I mean, I'm in New York. I'm licensed in New York. I don't do anything. I think you said you're in Texas, but if you need assistance connecting to anything, I will be happy to help look up mental health resources for you and whatnot. Like just shoot me a message or Paul a message. You have his number. I'm happy to help.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
Hope your eyes get better.
Yes, definitely. Yes. All right. We're gonna cut the recording here. So once again, thank you so much, and take care. Okay.
All right. You guys have a great day.
You too.
The origins of evil.